We all love comfort and luxury at its best, of course, and it is Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. They do have a number of services that you can go and check out. In the heart of Entebbe is where they are located. Of course, some of these include a view by the lakeside. We have a swimming pool, a gym, and also some other, the spa. They have a spa as well, and then steam and sauna. You can go and check out their services. They also have continental dishes and cuisines that you can try out as family or as friends. And lastly, they do have accommodation. Their rooms are very, very beautiful, and you can sleep in with your friends and family if in case you're looking for a place to chill, hang out, and have a good time. Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe is the place to be. My name is Karen Oman. You're very welcome this morning to Issues at Hand, where we bring you issues concerning our society, socially, economically, politically, but also, of course, educational and inspirational. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that is dear to everyone's heart, because every one of us loves to eat and actually loves to have some food. It might not be in big portions, but you have to eat to survive. And of course, there's a lot of issues when it comes to food that we want to look at. Today, particularly, we are going to focus on food loss and wastage as a challenge in Uganda. And of course, we're going to understand how exactly we can solve this issue and make sure that we come out with possible solutions that can work for us, but also future plans to make sure that we curb this vice. And then in the studio today, my guest is called Orochi Freda Laura, head of programs at FPA, and she is going to be taking us through this discussion. Let's welcome her. You're very welcome to studio this morning.
Thank you very much, Carol. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so you're passionate about food in general?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, tell us some of the things, one fact that we didn't know as Ugandans about food.
Yes, let me first introduce myself. My name is Freda Orochi Laura.
Okay.
I work with an organization called Food Rights Alliance. We are a network of organizations working to end hunger and malnutrition, and it can be done.
Okay.
Yes. And we are very, very passionate about issues of food security, issues of agriculture. That is the core business at the Alliance.
Okay.
And today I am here to talk about a very important issue, but neglected by most Ugandans. That is the issue of food loss and food waste. Okay. When you look at the status of food security in Uganda, about 10 million Ugandans are food insecure. We are a country of plenty. We have areas in the country where there are acute levels of food insecurity, and then areas in the country where there are acute levels of food loss and wastage. And this is very, very alarming, Carol. I know you have seen situations, I don't know where you come from, but there are areas in Uganda, let's say where there's a bumper harvest of matoke.
Yeah.
Yes, farmers take this matoke to the market because there's a bumper harvest, the prices have gone down, it's left in the market.
Okay.
They don't even take it back at home. On the other side, we have the northern part of the country, we have the Karamoja region, where there's acute food insecurity. And this should be an issue for all Ugandans. And for me, I'm here today to have this candid discussion with Ugandans and raise this matter so that it can be addressed. And when you look at the statistics that are around, an average Uganda throws about 103 kilograms of food annually. Let's look at that in metric tons. That is about 4,546 metric tons of food wasted. We have here people in Kampala who spend a day without a meal.
That's true.
Yes. Let's look at the restaurants and the food service industry. About 1,224 metric tons of food thrown annually. Let's look at the retail outlets. There the figure is a little bit low. We have 692 tons of food thrown. And so annually the country loses about 6,462 metric tons of food. That's from the retail side to the consumers. And we have people who are sleeping hungry. And also the issue of food loss and food waste, it has an impact on the economy. You know, a lot of investment. Agriculture is the backbone of our country.
That's true.
Yes. Most of Ugandans are subsistence farmers. Yes. But we spend a lot of resources. Look at labor. Our agriculture is labor intensive. Look at land. You know the challenges that we are facing around land. Look at the issue of capital. A lot of investment is made in agriculture, but the food is being lost. Now, if we are talking about the issues of food loss, it's even worse. About between 30 to 50% of crop is lost in the field. Oh, look at those statistics. And even some figures show that the anticipated loss at the farm level is about 80%. And we are looking at vegetables, we are looking at grains, we are looking at fruits. And these are the foods that are supposed to build our immunity if we are looking at issues of malnutrition. Yes, these are the foods that are supposed to give us the diverse diets, but we are losing them at farm. Then let's look at the meat industry. We lose about 23% meat, and then milk is about 14%. Very alarming statistics. Yet we know the value of milk. Very, very nutritious. And when you go to the other side of environmental sustainability, do you know that the agri-food system is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions? You've heard that? At every stage of food production, carbon dioxide is being released into the atmosphere. But what are we doing? We are wasting the food. We are wasting the food. And yet this has an impact on climate change. I know there are people who are saying climate change is a myth, but it's a reality, and we are seeing what is happening. So a lot of effort, a lot of resources, losses in terms of dollars, millions of dollars is done. And then at the other side, we have a population that is sleeping hungry. Look at, if we can discuss the statistics of a Kampala trader, because we are in Kampala, between 1.6 to 7.6 kilograms are wasted in a day. Look at our markets, and Kalere market has the highest rates of food waste. Yes. But when you look, we have Kalere market, then we have street children in Wandegea who are hungry. They are hungry, and they keep on knocking on our windows, asking us for money to buy food.
100.
Yes. But just a few meters from them at Kalere market, food is being wasted. So this should be an issue of concern to all Ugandans. It's an issue of justice. And some of the drivers of this, when you look at even our food culture, the way we treat food, you know, food is also an issue of culture, identity. But how do we treat this food according to our cultures and customs? And I'll give you an example. Do you know what Ugandans mean when they say that function was really powerful?
The food must have been nice.
Yes. They served a lot, they ate, and it remained. And then the consensus is, wow, we had a very nice powerful function because the food was eaten and it remained there. It was wasted, and we're like, okay, it's an issue of prestige. It's an issue of prestige. But true. Now that food that has remained, where does it go? Where does it go? We have invested a lot of money in that, but where is the food going? In fact, there are some sections in our culture where among, I think, the Bantu, the issue of amawolo. How many people eat mawolo? Look at what we are doing in our homes. If we look at now issues of consumer awareness, how do you manage your food at your home? How do you manage food loss and food waste at your home? We buy in bulk, those who are able to. But at the same time, we have a Ugandan who is sleeping hungry. Us, we are buying in bulk. And this food is wasted.
Wow, interesting. So let's start the discussion from how does food get wasted exactly? Will you give some people a highlight on how food gets wasted?
Yes, as I said, food gets wasted in very, very many stages. If we are looking at food loss, issues of food loss, most times it happens on farm. When we are looking at issues of food wastage, it happens from the level of the retailers, the food service producers, and the consumers. That is where the food gets wasted. I've given very, very many examples. You see, Ugandans, just look at even the meetings that we have. Yes, there will be water. Mineral water will be provided. Someone will drink half and leave it there on the table.
Oh.
Then we look at the queues, the lines. We line up to serve food, and we are going to heap our plates. I usually say our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. Yeah, we heap our plates, we serve, but we end up unable to finish that food. And where does that food go? I told you the retailers, the restaurants, the food service providers contribute about 1,224 metric tons of food is wasted. And now when we come to the farm during harvest, what we call the post-harvest losses, it's between 30 to 50%. Look at when farmers are harvesting even vegetables, what happens in that scenario? In fact, now we have seen farmers doing unethical practices. You've heard of the story of where farmers spray vegetables, they spray fruit and take to the market. That is an issue. Those are issues of food safety that are now coming up. And it's very important that we all take action. We are just coming from the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Food Waste. And these are considerations that Ugandans should have starting from household level. When you serve that plate of food, ask yourself, how did this food get from the farm to the plate? What were the repercussions of this food getting from the farm to the plate?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You talked about hunger and malnutrition. So I would like to ask a question. How do we mitigate? How do we solve the issue of hunger and malnutrition? Because it's an issue in some areas of Uganda. Yes. So how do we solve it?
I believe, and for us at Food Rights Alliance, we believe that we can end hunger and malnutrition.
Okay.
We are a country of plenty, blessed, fertile soils. In fact, we are still one of those countries that still depend on rain-fed agriculture.
Okay.
Yes. And so when we look at, because food is an issue of policy, when you look at our framework around food, we have frameworks. We have the agricultural policy. We have very, very many policies around food, governing agriculture, including the National Agriculture Extension Strategy, which is also key in managing post-harvest losses.
Okay.
But the challenge comes to enforcement, implementation, because we must admit that we face challenges in implementation of these policies. And for me, I believe it is a two-way thing. We can't pinpoint at the government, and yet even as the consumers, we are not compliant. Yes, I know, government is supposed to implement these policies, but even us, we have a responsibility as consumers to comply to these policies. Issues of regulations. Are the regulations enforced? You know, there are very many loopholes. You know, Uganda, and we always take advantage. Loopholes. We take advantage of these loopholes, and what is the result? We have issues of food safety, we have issues of food loss, we have issues of food wastage, and that is now where we find ourselves in a scenario where one part of the country has plenty of food, the other part of the country has
almost
hunger.
None.
And then we also don't have, we call them strategic food reserves.
Okay.
Remember, I think in the past, we had granaries.
Yeah.
Yes, that was used to store
food for the
future. What has happened to that as a country? How can we live as a country without strategic food reserves? Because we must appreciate, we have to build resilience, because farming is unpredictable. And remember, I've said we rely on rain-fed agriculture. So there's a lot of unpredictability. One, we can have bumper harvests, then there are losses. And you see farmers crying, oh, we did not get good yields because of A, B, and C. But now we don't have where food can be stored, reserved, and kept. Our food distribution systems are not in existence. Because if we had strong, well thought out food distribution systems, it would be easy. Just distribute food from where it is plenty to where it is scarcity. And it also touches on the issues of diverse diets. You even see in areas where there is plenty of food, malnutrition is high. Do you know that? Because people are eating cassava. It is what they have. So, and we see high levels of malnutrition in these areas. And yet we are saying 26% of our children are stunted. What does that mean to the future generation? Because this is the future generation. 26 are stunted. What quality of life are we looking at in the future? The percentage of children who are anemic are also high. Then let's look at our school-going children. About 63% are not able to eat one meal a day. And we all know the value of food. So this child has gone to school and is unable to eat one meal per day. And the child is studying. And this is our future. These are issues that we should think about. How do we strengthen the school feeding programs to ensure that the meals that are provided at schools are nutritious? Because we are looking at issues of quality and quantity. The meal should be nutritious. It should be diverse. Because we have seen schools that provide meals, but is the quality of the meal that is being served to a child diverse? We know the quality of meal that a child needs to grow. But is it diverse? We are eating portion beans. Children are being fed on portion beans. Every day. So just imagine the future we are going to have.
Very, very touching situation. But let's move on. Now you talked about the issue of land. Is it that there is not enough land to grow the food in some of these areas where there is food shortage?
Yes, the issue of access to land is also very, very important. And it's one of the issues that also affects food production, because we know access to land rights, there's a nexus between access to land rights and issues of food security. And you realize that when we are talking about access to land, because we even believe, we believe that if a Ugandan gets access to land, they'll be able to grow food to feed their families. But you find in communities where people are still facing challenges in terms of access to land. And I want to focus on the vulnerable groups, particularly the women who provide the 70% of labor in the agriculture sector.
Yes, they do.
And we know the challenges that women are facing on access and ownership to land. And it's very, very funny. It's really funny, Carol, when we are talking about access to land for women. And you see, it comes to issues of decision making in a home. Most times, it is the man who decides which land is going to be used for what. There is no consensus building to even reach that decision. And most times, the focus is on cash crops. The fertile land is reserved for cash crops, and the woman and her children are going to provide that labor. Afterwards, then she will be told, okay, now it is time for you to go and grow your vegetables and food for the home. And she's going to provide this labor, and then when it comes to harvest, she'll even harvest. But now when it comes to the sale of the produce, that is where we see issues. And we see issues of even GBV manifesting, because she has no say. It is the man who is going to take this produce to the market. And even in circumstances where the woman takes this produce to the market and she sells it and gets income, she has no say. You know, as women usually, they are the guardians of food security and nutrition in the home. They are the gatekeepers so if they are not given enough resources, that has an impact on household food security. And so that's why we are saying, can Ugandans be supported? Those who don't have access to land, can they be supported to access land? Can they be supported to protect their land rights? Nowadays, there are issues of land evictions. I know we have now talking about land issues, but we can't run away from this, because they all connect to. Yes, they have an effect on this. We have seen scenarios where communities that are threatened by a land eviction, by a land grab, they are hesitant to grow food. Have you realized that? Yes.
Okay.
They are hesitant to
because tomorrow
food.
Someone will.
Yes, we shall be just. And if you've noticed, it's very funny. And Ugandans, I think we are just relaxed about everything. In instances of drought, these off seasons, the land disputes, especially the boundary disputes, are low.
Okay.
But now when the rains come back, especially in registered land, and that is where most of the food is, unregistered land, where the food is grown, you see instances of boundary disputes rising between families. And what happened? Someone has gone to dig, finds the neighbor has trespassed on his or her boundary, and they exchange. And so what is going to be the impact of that on food production? It has an impact. So it is important. Land is also a valuable resource in terms of securing food security and ending hunger and malnutrition.
Thank you so much. Now let's look at food and agriculture in detail. Now there's a lot of food lost before it even leaves the gardens. How can we solve this issue?
But this problem, I believe, and I know it can be solved through, number one, there should be deliberate investment by both state and non-state actors in extension support to farmers.
Okay.
We are talking about the post-harvest management, process management, because if farmers are supported with storage facilities at every stage of production, I believe the issue of food loss will be minimized. But you find most times farmers do not have access to this. It even comes to a capacity issue. That's why I'm talking about, let us invest in extension support. It's very, very, very important, because most of our farmers are subsistence. You see, we have seen cases where food is dried on the road. Carrie, you've seen that?
Yes, I've seen that.
How much food is lost in that process? But if they are supported with warehouses, with where they can store this food at every stage of production, I believe this issue can be managed. Yes.
Okay. So then we talked about climate as well. What are the dangers of climate change, and where do we see ourselves in the near future because of climate?
Yes, and this is a very important issue. And for me, we have to see resources going into building the resilience of farmers to climate change. Because most times our farmers are left vulnerable to the vagaries of climate change. And as a result, because they rely on rain-fed agriculture, they become vulnerable to the effects of this. And this affects production and productivity. But if they are supported, and it goes back, extension support, financing, how much money is being allocated for climate change interventions in the agro-industrialization program? How much money is going there? How much money is being allocated to manage issues of food loss and food wastage? Those are all issues that we need to discuss. Even resources, when we're talking about capacity building, we like saying capacity building, awareness raising, we like saying it.
Yeah.
But it is an expensive endeavor.
Yeah.
You can't go and train farmers for 5 days, 3 days, and you think that is it. That is it. It has to be continuous. And what does that mean? It comes back to resources. Do we have the resources to maintain this? Because it has to be a continuous endeavor. We don't train them one off and we go and we say, okay, we have built capacities. Even issues of awareness. Awareness is very, very expensive, because you are changing mindset. You know what it means, changing mindset of someone? I have grown up with that. It is part of my heritage, in my culture. When there's a function, food has to be eaten. We have to cook a lot of food, and it is eaten and left there. And that is when we shall say that we had a very good function. In fact, there's one of my favorite authors. There's where he said there was a function. The book is set in Nigeria. There was a function. So he described an African feast, a lot of fufu, pounded yam, mountains. Guests were seated opposite. It's only when the food reached halfway, then one of the guests realized, my relative is here. They exchanged greetings. So that is our culture. Food has to be there.
Yeah.
It is. You look at the youth. in the villages down there, for your function to have been successful. Yeah? Food has to be there, it has to be eaten and left, and people will say, wow, yeah, that family is rich. So that, what is that? Mindset. And it is expensive to change mindset. So there has to be deliberate investment in mindset change, because it has to be continuous to change someone's perception that, you know what I'm doing is wrong. If I buy a bottle of mineral water, I should finish it. If I don't finish it, I can carry it and go with it and finish it from home. I should serve my children what they are able to finish. Even in the homes. I know nowadays we have helpers who help us as women. We have to manage our homes. And because it comes from the home, we said an average Ugandan, between you and I and him, 103 kilograms of food is thrown away. So it starts from the household level. How are you managing that?
Thank you so much. Let's get a scenario where a restaurant owner loses some food at the end of the day. How can this restaurant owner contribute to stopping, the wastage of food, and other people in that category? How do they contribute to stopping the wastage of food?
Yeah, and when we look at these big food service providers,
yes,
number one, it's an issue of storage. Do they have the capacity to store food? Number one, because even apart from what is being cooked, we have forgotten the other element of what expires. You understand?
Yeah.
What expires? What expires and is thrown away, and these categories are also good at that. It has expired and it is thrown away. But what causes that? It comes to, and it has an element of even standards, regulations, because I know everyone has been a victim of this. For people who buy things in bulk, you can go and buy, and you've said, okay, I'm buying this and I'm going to use this for a month. Yes, but you end up buying something whose expiry dates are close.
Yeah.
Yes, you end up buying something whose expiry dates are closer. And what is the effect of that? This is going to be thrown away. And it also happens amongst these categories. Issues of expiry dates, even issues of standards. Because when you look at these big food service providers, they want their food to look in a certain way. The apple should be shaped like this, the pineapple should be shaped like this. So in the process of sorting, the one that doesn't appear to conform to the standards is thrown away. And sometimes this food or this vegetable that is being thrown away, it is not even spoiled. It can be consumed by someone else.
Of course.
So issues of awareness, issues of enforcement of standards come in.
Thank you so much. Now, should we say we've exhausted the challenges of food loss and wastage in Uganda?
In my opinion, I know there are numerous challenges around this issue of food loss and food wastage, but I believe these are the key drivers that are causing food loss and wastage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how about the status of food loss and waste? Have we covered that, or is there anything you would like to add?
We have covered that, but for me, I would just because the reason why we are sharing these statistics is with Ugandans is we want to touch hearts, we want to touch minds.
Okay.
This is a point for action for every citizen. Because if we are telling you, a trader, Kampala trader, and this is just Kampala alone, where we were able to get some statistics. Yeah. What is the scenario in the rest of the parts of the country? How much food is being lost? How much food is being wasted? And then we have Ugandans who are sleeping hungry. This disconnect needs to be addressed. We need to solve it. And I believe by addressing some of these issues, by setting up structures, I talked about the food distribution structures to ensure that food is transported from an area of scarcity to an area of plenty.
Okay.
These are some of the recommendations that can manage the acute levels of food insecurity and malnutrition in Uganda. And it is very, very sad, Carol, if I may say.
Okay.
Very, very sad. A country of plenty. The Pearl of Africa.
The Pearl of Africa.
For Ugandans to sleep hungry. It is very, very sad. It should be a concern for every stakeholder.
Do you think schemes should come up on how maybe the market can distribute the food they don't need to get to that street child who needs it? Do you think such schemes should be, we should come up with such schemes?
Yes, they should come up, and that can be under what are the food distribution structures, infrastructure that should be set up. Of course, we have seen some programs where it's mostly now individuals, yes, who we have seen who get food, and this food is distributed to the street children. I've seen some around Wastage. You see, kind Ugandans doing that. But for me, I want, can this be organized? Can we see more people coming up to do this? It should be a concern to all of us to set up these schemes to see that food is distributed across. Thank you.
So for the Food Rights Alliance, what have you done as an organization to mitigate this challenge, to make sure that you're taking steps towards the end of this challenge?
Food Rights Alliance, we have done some work around this issue, and this is in terms of awareness raising, because it starts from building awareness around these issues, which is important, because when you build awareness, gradually you will see a change. You'll see an improvement in management practices during post-harvest. You'll see an improvement along the distribution chain. Where the farmers, and we are looking at now the food producers, they change their attitudes, they change their behavior in regards to food loss and food wastage. But the approach to food loss and food wastage should be holistic, because you see, it is a problem across the entire food chain, and it should be managed at every level. That's why issues of awareness, issues of capacity building are important, issues of engaging with the duty bearers on implementation of policies, because as a country, we don't have a food loss and food waste policy, yes? But we have legislation, we have laws and policies that touch aspects of this issue. So for us, we are calling for implementation of these issues. And what supports implementation? Implementation is supported by resources. You cannot implement when you don't have resources.
True.
Yes. So we are advocating for resources, for budgets to be allocated to handle this challenge. And that is where you'll see enforcement, you'll see regulation, you'll see even implementation of policies. Issues of advocating for extension support to farmers. What is the ratio of an extension worker to a farmer? It is very, very high. You find one extension worker the figure skipped my mind, has to handle very many farmers. So this has an impact on the quality of the service that is going to be given to this farmer. Although I must commend the non-state actors who have also come to support this, because we have seen a lot of investment being done by the development partners, by the non-state actors towards provision of extension support. It should be a concerted effort by all stakeholders. But for me, I call upon even the media houses. I'm so glad, Family TV, you picked up this issue. Yes, let's see the media houses come on board. Some of these issues, and an issue of national importance, if I can put it like that, national importance. So if a big media house like Family TV picks it up, this is a plus, because you're reaching out to millions of Ugandans who probably, after listening to us, will change.
Yes.
Will change. And it can be done.
Oh, wow. It is a very beautiful discussion, but of course we have to go for a very short break. We are returning with more about food loss and wastage, especially recommendations to manage food loss and exactly how we can manage this scourge. Now, of course, we are going to take a short break. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott in Entebbe. Stay with us. We will be right back. We're powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best. You can check them out in the heart of Entebbe is where they are located. My name is Karo and we're continuing with issues at hand, and I'm here with Freda Laura. She's telling us all about food loss and wastage and how exactly we can mitigate this issue in Uganda. And my first question, I'd like to understand, do you think, in your opinion, that government has done enough when it comes to this issue? And should there be more contribution when it comes to government side of things?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. In my opinion, government can do more. Yes, because we should commend the government for setting legislation, for setting regulations, for setting standards, and even for the enforcement to manage the issue of food loss and food wastage. But I believe that more can be done by the government, because the government of Uganda should be at the forefront of this. And for us, this is appealing to the government to invest. Managing this issue needs resources. It's a very expensive endeavor. It even involves research. Setting up these storage systems that we are recommending are very expensive. So the government should look towards allocating more resources towards managing this issue. So the government can do more. That is what we are saying. But we should see commitment. We want to see commitment being done to address this in terms of extension support to our farmers, to our subsistence farmers who are using rudimentary methods of preserving food. Can we see government investing more into supporting these farmers, into giving them the extension support, into building their capacities on food handling? Because during the process of food handling, that is where we see food being lost and wasted. And also another thing, government should work with the private sector. Because we realize there's also a lot of investment by the private sector in agriculture. So government should work hand in hand with the private sector to manage this issue. And for me, I believe the private sector can do more in terms of investing in more efficient processing and packaging technologies, in terms of the supply chain practices, such as even better inventory management. These are serious investments. And so we have to see the private sector coming in more to support the government on this.
Okay, thank you. And on the recommendations, still continuing, the recommendations to manage food loss, what do you have to say about that? How exactly do you recommend people, the society, to manage food loss?
And for the consumers, because we are all part of consumers.
Yes,
for the consumers, yes. For the consumers, we have to see, first of all, a deliberate shift in behavior towards food loss and food wastage.
Okay.
Because we have to see a change in practice. There's something that we call positive social norm programming. It's an approach that can be used to change mindset of the consumers when it comes to issues of food loss and food wastage. And also, looking at changing practices of consumers, it can be in terms of awareness creation. And for me, I just think it's because not a lot of information about this issue has been disseminated. Has been disseminated to the consumers. Because if you can even just do a survey of how many Ugandans are even aware that there is an international day for food loss and wastage. It's
a handful.
So if there is concerted effort to sensitize the consumers to change behavior, to change their practice, because everything that we do, as I told you, at every stage of food production, you're emitting carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Okay? If these linkages are clearly built and the negative effects are properly disseminated. Sometimes I think the scare approach can also work. Sometimes you need to scare people and then they're like, oh, okay. Maybe we need to change because we are now seeing the negative repercussions of all this. But consumers have a lot to do, because it starts, the amount of food that is being wasted by consumers is alarming. So it starts from you. It starts from us, the consumers, to change our practice. And for me, I hope this program today has touched the consumers who are listening in, and I hope we shall see more change happening, especially around consumption patterns of consumers. Because why are you wasteful? Why are you wasteful? Why are you wasteful? Your neighbor is sleeping hungry. You are throwing
wasting
food.
the food.
We have seen it happen. You are throwing food. You are mismanaging food. Someone will buy 5 bunches of matoke and their family of 4. It will ripen.
To ripen.
And what happens? It is thrown. But just across the road, a neighbor is sleeping hungry.
Oh,
yes, it is. And for me, issues of also hunger can cause instability, can cause insecurity. Do you know that? Because as for you, you're wasting food. You're throwing it in the dustbin. Your neighbor is sleeping hungry. What are the chances of your neighbor robbing you?
Oh. Okay, that's another angle.
That's another angle we should look at. Let me tell you, a hungry community is never a peaceful community.
That's true.
Hunger can cause insecurity. Why are they grabbing people's bags, grabbing people's phones in the streets? Why are they grabbing that? To look for money to buy food. But at the same time, we have a section of Ugandans who are wasteful. And we have another section who are hungry. So what is going to happen to the hungry and the ones who are not hungry? You see that tension?
Yeah.
You see that tension? And it is very, very common. And you see it in our neighborhoods where the affluent neighbors living. You find, I don't want to call them slums, but you find the economically disadvantaged community living next to them. Have you noticed that the crime rate is high?
Yes.
The crime rate is high. Why is that? Food. So if we don't take concerted effort and actions by all of us, we are going to face these challenges of being vulnerable to insecurity.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Freda. I think Freda is giving us some information that we should all take home to make sure that, of course, we mitigate the situation and make sure that food wastage stops with our generation. But I'd like to move on to another question. Now, some experts say that we are seeing famine hitting the country in a few years to come. Where do you see us 10 years from now in relation to food loss and wastage? Yeah.
For me, I am a hopeful individual, and I come from an organization that can believe it can be done. So we are seeing more stakeholders coming up on this issue, because there was a press conference by a number of actors on the day of the International Food Loss and Waste. And so we are seeing this effort, concerted effort, that is being done by both the government and the non-state actors around managing issues of food loss and food wastage. And for me, I believe that if we continue up, if we build this momentum, we are going to see an improvement. I don't want to dwell on the negatives. I believe it can be done. It can. People just didn't know. That is what I keep on telling myself. People just didn't know. But now that this information is going out there, farmers are being supported, and there's change in behavior. There's change in practice. I believe this problem is going to be managed, and we shall even see some of these, the structures, the food distribution structures set up. We shall see reserves, the food reserves set up, and this can manage all these issues. So I don't want to paint a picture of doom. No, we are a country of plenty. I stick to that. Yes, we are a country of plenty. We just need to make an effort. And because remember, Carol, we have a young population.
Yes, that's true.
We have a young population. But again, another amazing fact, the average age of a family farmer is 50 plus.
Oh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. And you know, most of our food is produced by the family farmer. Who have to adopt all these practices. Who have to adopt all these practices. So, the young population, we have to interest them in agriculture. We have to interest them in agriculture. food production should not be left in the hands of the aging family farmer. Can we see incentives to interest the youth in agriculture? You know, it is so sad most of our youth are giving up on their country and going out to search for livelihoods. And yet we have livelihoods here. Our land, we're a rich country. We are a natural resource rich country. So if we see the youth, and there are very many programs, youth livelihood programs, incentives by both the state and non-state actors, and we see this young population investing their time, being supported, because we have to have an enabling environment, inclusion, are very important. So we see this young population getting into agriculture, getting into issues of food security. I believe there will be a change, because even if you look at even issues of climate change, who is at the forefront of climate justice? It is now the youth. It's an issue. They have picked it very, very fast. Yes. And so if we interest this category, who is the majority of our population, into this issue, I believe the problem of hunger and malnutrition will be solved and will be managed. Me, I'm a positive person.
That's a very beautiful contribution. Now, talking about sensitization, the parish, you know, it's the smallest level of community. How have we made sure that we have sensitized each one? How are we going to make sure? In Uganda, they said tukoze tutya okulaba. How are we going to make sure that these, from the parish level, they understand food loss and wastage? Because we can sit here, talk to the public, but then someone at home will not, deep in the village, will not know what we've said. So how are we going to make sure we're sensitizing these communities?
And the issue of sensitization is very important, making sure that information gets to the grassroots. And also this information, how is it packaged? It should be packaged in a manner that is understood by the person at the grassroots. Simplified, packaged, disseminated in a manner that is understood by the person at the grassroots. And when we are talking about inclusive dissemination of information by everyone, because we have people who are facing challenges. We look at people with vulnerabilities. We look at the elderly. We look at the persons with disabilities. Are they getting access to this information? And I have been saying it is like community awareness is an expensive endeavor. How do we reach? How many districts do we have at the moment? How do we make sure this information gets down to the grassroots? It can be done. There are very many avenues of disseminating this information by both the state, who should lead us in dissemination, because this is the core role, mandate of the state, who should lead us on this, and reinforced by the development partners and civil society. So if state and non-state actors work together, this information can reach the grassroots, because I know they are getting it. They are getting it, but only that maybe it is being gotten piecemeal because of, I've told you, the funding gaps, and then on top of the funding gaps, we have the human resource gap, because I've told you the ratio of an extension worker to farmers is that number can't be managed by one person. It is very, very high. But non-state actors have come up. There are institutions that are down there at the lowest level, making sure this information gets to the last person. So it just requires concerted effort. We have to see resources going in there, financial, human resource, technological, which is very, very important. And it requires investment from even private sector coming in to invest in dissemination of information. Thank you so much. Maybe let's have your last words as you wrap up the discussion. What would you leave with our viewer out there? Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Family TV for giving me this opportunity to come and share this information with our viewers out there. And the last, we have said a lot, yes? But my final words to the viewers who have tuned in is the issue of food loss and the issue of food wastage is very important. Take it as a very, very important issue, and it starts with you. do the little that you can, and together we can see a momentum of all actors from the farm to the plates making concerted efforts to reduce food loss and wastage. So as you have a meal today, for those who are lucky, because we also have to acknowledge that 10 million Ugandans are sleeping hungry. For those who are lucky, as you have a meal today, reflect on the process that this food has undergone to get to your plate, and consume responsibly. So we are talking about responsible consumption and production. Thank you.
All right. She has left us with a good one: responsible consumption and production of food. And of course, I hope that we will keep it in mind even as we go along, eating our meals and enjoying whatever we are enjoying. If you work in a restaurant or hotel, please, this information was for you as well. But I believe on a good side, I believe this issue will be solved in one way or the other. Of course, it takes time, but I'm sure we'll get there as a country. My name is Carol. Thank you so much for being here for Issues at Hand. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye-bye.